Well, boys and girls, welcome back to another one of Stas's Walking Drago episodes. Okay, there's your Drago moment. Where I burn my calories thinking of stuff that you can then either say, whoa, brilliant, or laugh at. Anyways, so, as Germany goes to rearm, which by the way, I've had several comments of people coming in with, well, it's not the same Germans as they were back in when Hitler came around. It's not the same mentality. It's not this or that. You need to read up what Germany was like. What Germany was like back in late 1920s, early 1930s. First of all, sexually repulsive. Anything and everything went. Economically collapsed. Again, why was there's such a high inflation rate? Because the German government was printing money, paper money. Why? Because all the gold was going off to pay for reparations for a war that every side started. The Germans, they played a big role in World War I, but to be honest, all sides started because they all thought they were going to have the glorious 2-month war, and it'd all be over with great parades. Yeah, things didn't quite turn out that well, which is amazing considering the Western Europeans, and the Germans included, were all using machine guns to mow down the natives in their colonies and their brutal regimes. Like the most brutal regime of it all was Belgium. The guys with the biggest ego that they want to tell everybody how to live. King Leopold, baby, King Leopold. That's all you need to know. He made Hitler almost look tame. He just didn't do it on a machine-based, industrial base like Hitler did. But he was just as much of a blood-thirsty mass murderer. Not that the Belgians are going to tell you about it. Or their human zoos that were going right into the 60s. Oh, but that's in the past now. We're much better people, really, as we lecture you on how you should live and what the things you should do. Okay. Anyways, and as Germany was in a pretty big mess, but they got whipped into shape pretty quickly. So again, no need to underestimate. The worst thing you can do is underestimate your possible enemy, or at least that's what the government definitely dictates, that they are the enemy of Russia. But the question is, does it have to be that way? And was it always that way? Yes, 2 world wars Germany fought against Russia. Lost both. Well, we would have been one of the victors if certain parties didn't help the Bolshevik Revolution sprout. Certain parties, London, Washington, because, and as we're heading toward World War III, again with Germany fighting Russia, and the question has to rise, was it always like this? Does it always have to be? Were the Germans always the enemies of Russia? Or is there some other agenda here? And if there's an agenda here, whose agenda is it? Washington, London. Well, first of all, London, because in World War I, Washington wasn't playing that game yet. It was in World War II. So let's review a little bit. The German Empire gets formed by Bismarck, not Wilhelm I. Wilhelm I was a liberal. He was surrounded by liberals. The last thing he wanted to do was start any wars or build any empires. He basically was abdicating Germany's role in any kind, or Prussia's role, let me rephrase that, in any kind of leadership of Germany, or the territories known as Germany, because there was no Germany until 1883. There were several countries that were vying for the dominant position and the future possible Germany. One of them was Austria, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Another one was Denmark. Yes, Denmark. Germany fought a war with Denmark. Denmark had primitive technology, still had flintlock rifles. The Germans had bolt-action rifles, and, well, one thing led to another, and there were a lot less Danes left in this world breathing, a lot more fertilizing the ground. So, that's history. So, the Danes got a feeling of what it's like to have been Indians with spears fighting against flintlock rifles. About the same equivalent when all things are considered. But Bismarck, who maneuvered Wilhelm I with expert level, 999 level prowess. Bismarck always said, be friends, be allies with Russia. He never wanted Germany, the German Empire, to be enemies with Russia. And the original alliance, interestingly enough, was the Austro-Hungarians, the Germans, and the Russians. And then this falling out comes, particularly when Wilhelm II and his withered arm and his small ego and desire to prove himself as a man appears, and he fires Bismarck, and things go sour. Of course, it wasn't all of Wilhelm's fault. Wilhelm, who famously said he despised the Slavs, even though he was possibly part Slavic, part Russian, but that's aside the point. So he says we're going. So Russia too, Nicholas II, also started splitting away from the Germanics to the side of the Anglos. And we've seen this in history before several times. And it never brought Russia any good, or anybody else except for the Anglos. So we had this moment between World War I, before World War I, in the 1880s and the 1890s, where Germany and Russia were relatively close together. They were allied. Then, post-World War I, when Germany had a very limited allowed military, up to 1934, when Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany and the Soviet Union were very close. In fact, Germany was practicing, learned blitzkrieg from Soviet strategists, tacticians, who had come up with a theory, because the Germans had no tanks in World War I, I'm sorry. That 47, that's all they built. And they got another 45 that they captured, that the Western Allies had abandoned. So tank theory wasn't something that they were very good at developing at that point in time. So they got the theory of blitzkrieg, and they raised it to an art form. I'm not going to deny that, but that was a Soviet creation at that time. So they get what they get, and they were relatively close together until again the big split that happened in 1934 with the coming to power of Hitler in 1933. So move forward, 1991. Again, Germany is very close with Russia, and that lasts up to about 2006, 2007, when everything starts going sour. Merkel starts making sure of that, or rather her handlers. Now, Russia and Germany being at each other's throats only feeds one group of people and their vassals, the Anglos. The first such Anglo incident was the war called the Napoleonic Wars, the War of 1812, 1812, and in 1814, or otherwise known as the Patriotic War. Not the Great Patriotic War, the Patriotic War. You see, Alexander I, with Napoleon, sat down on a float in the middle of a river and signed a alliance. And a mutual blockade of England. That is, no more English goods are getting in anywhere. So this is a catastrophe of all catastrophes for the British. They were cut off from European trade. Their economy was faltering, and they had big problems. So what to do? What to do for the British? Well, the British had agents of influence with Alexander I, and they pulled him away from Napoleon and got him in line with the British. So he opens up trade, so the British economy is trading with the Russian economy, which means the Russian economy isn't trading with Napoleon and his vassals, which is the majority of Europe, which we're losing, but the British are winning. Yeah. One side's winning, one side's losing, as opposed to a win-win. So Napoleon invades Russia. Well, rather, Napoleon never invaded Russia. Well, he did, I mean, obviously, but never invaded Russia to conquer Russia. That is a silly modern version of history, or lack of knowledge of history. What Napoleon was actually doing with the Grande Armée, his aim was to defeat Russia in one big battle and force Alexander I back to the negotiation table and return the blockade on the British. That was his aim. That was his desire. Though he never got it, because the Russian army kept moving away from him, pulling him deeper and deeper in, and that's why he was chasing Russia down, the Russian army down, to try to get that one big victory. But yet the Russians just wouldn't give it to him. Nope, just wouldn't give it to him. So he kept trying. He definitely kept trying. Again, if he wanted to conquer Russia, and he definitely wouldn't have gone toward Moscow. First Smolensk and then toward Moscow. Also a lot of troops in Smolensk, house-to-house fighting. He would have gone to St. Petersburg, the capital, which he didn't. But again, we know how history goes, and then in 1815 or 1814, the Russian army comes marching in, leading the Allies in Paris. Napoleon abdicates and returns a couple of years later, but that's a whole different issue. So, win-win for the British, questionable win for Russia, lose for the French. Okay, we jump forward prior to World War I. British agents of influence pull Nicholas II away from Germany, push Germany away from Russia, and we get a war. World War I, the desire of the British wasn't just to destroy the German Empire, but it was to destroy the German and the Russian Empire. World War II, same thing basically. Hitler gets brought to power on questionable monies and finance, and we've skittled down to what we know as World War II. Because the British aim was always to destroy Russia. And to keep Germany out too. Now, the biggest fear of the Anglos, by and far the biggest fear of the Anglos, is any kind of social and economic union between the Germans and the Russians. Now, I really despise, I just despise when people say, oh, German industrial might and Russian resources and German intelligence. Yeah, okay, we're the fifth largest industrial base in the world. And even World War I, Russia was actually quite industrialized. It just took to 1916 to fully move to a wartime economy. So, you freaking despise that. And our sciences are on top. Look, Russia is one of the very, very few in the world full cycle economies in very many fields. For example, short-range to mid-range airliners. Russia builds them 100% Russian-made parts. Well, the long-range ones are under development. They haven't come out yet, but they are being developed. Europe can't do that. US can do that. Europe can't do that. Airbus is built by parts and manufacturing all over Western Europe and Central Europe. There's no one country in Europe that can do that. It takes the entire bloody peninsula to do what Russia can do. Europe can't build space stations. In fact, the US can't build space stations. Only Russia's built, in modern times, full space stations. Right now, even this International Space Station is, I think, about a third Russian built. And Russia's planning on leaving that in the next 4 years. It's already declared it. And building its own space station. Or maybe, and there's talk of building it in conjunction with China now. But the original plan was building its own. And building a moon base with the Chinese in joint partnership. The West, the US can do a lot of these things, or could. Question if it still can. But Europe can't. All these second, third grade economies, which they're all not. All of them, by purchasing power parity, have all sunk below Russia. Russia's in fourth place. So there's only China's in first place. And by purchasing power parity, which is how economists actually measure economies, China is already a third larger than the US. Fourth or third, somewhere around there. Yep, life's a bitch, but that's the reality of it. I know most American firsters are, their heads are exploding right now because, it doesn't fit in the propaganda they hear from CNN or from Fox or whatever. But reality is reality. Only sophomores use FX to measure economic output. You can't even use FX or straight line comparison like that in the U.S. because living in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, compared to the cost of living in San Diego, it's like absolutely two different countries that have absolutely nothing in common with each other. And so on and so on. Anyways, as we move forward. And the question is, what would happen if there was a economic alliance between Russia and Germany? Well, outside of actual stability in Europe, yeah, that's a horrible thing, stability in Europe. Lack of wars. In other words, the English don't have a place in Europe. Neither the Americans. Outside of that, I mean, the economic prosperity that would grow for everybody in between and around. Because the Poles would find themselves shut down with their little Russophobia. Nobody would be buying it, and they'd have to get in line or step in formation with everyone else, and live peacefully and prosperously and trade. Oh my God, how horrible would that be? Yes, you can't tell the sarcasm in my voice, right? Drago's going nuts because there's horses that go up and down this trail we're on, which makes walking here really fun because we had really heavy rains a couple days ago, so the mud is mud and the horses just churn it up like crazy. Drago pashli. And the horses shit everywhere and piss everywhere, so he's actually quite afraid of horses. He hasn't been around them that much, and the ones that pass by, when they do pass by, he just goes nuts. He sees this thing that's so much bigger than him that isn't even paying any attention to him. Couldn't give a bigger damn that he's standing there, and he just goes nuts. So now, again, who's going to win out of all of this? Of course, the Anglos. Why the German people can't see that, I don't know. I mean, 3 times. We had 3 reapproachments. We had 3 good times that could have led to golden ages. All of them destroyed by almost this satanic level force that's hell-bent on making sure Europe drowns its own blood, gets replaced by people from other nations, from other parts of the earth, and just dies off. And that would be the Anglo-Saxons. They're quite happy to kill off their own common man, Anglo-Saxon, even though a lot of those are fool enough to believe in their leaders and follow them. The very leaders that despise you and would rather see you die off and be replaced by somebody that looks nothing like you from a society that's much easier to control. Think about it, right? Think about it. We had 3 opportunities. They've all fallen apart. We've had 2 world wars, and we're running straight to a 3rd world war. Who's making the big bucks? And in the end, it surely isn't the German elites, because they get sacrificed every single time. But they keep being too stupid to figure that out. Oh well. History repeats itself the first time as a tragedy and the second time as a farce. So we're on that second time now. So it's a farce. Drago, stoy. All right, have fun. I am done. I am done torturing your brains for the day. Cheers.